Genesis chapter 2, verse 8. Kai efutus en Kyrios atheos, paradesan in Edom, kata anatolas, kai etheta aketon anthropon han eplasin. Let's begin with this first verb. And you can tell with the sigma here, the epsilon on the front end, third singular ending. This is a third singular aorist active indicative from futuo, which means to plant. So someone is planting something. And our subject here is Kyrios hatheos. And for the first time now, in the Septuagint at least, we have the word Kyrios. It is translating Yahweh. And in the Masoretic, that's been used 2 other times. This is actually the third occurrence of Yahweh in Genesis thus far. And this mapping of Yahweh or the Tetragrammaton to Kyrios is a very standard thing that happens eventually. There's debate about how far back exactly it goes. It's clear that Christian scribes did this and translators. Whether the Greek translators did it is actually a bit of a difficult thing to prove out. In future videos, we'll show that the Tetragrammaton is rendered in a lot of different ways in Jewish manuscripts of the Greek or the Dead Sea Scrolls. And so there is a debate about how far back this practice with Kyrios. But either way, it's the Lord God planted. Now, what did he plant? A paradesos. And the Hebrew here is gan, G-A-N, paradesos. And you may think this is paradise. But hold that thought. We're going to come back to this. The actual word here means garden. Simple garden here. So God is now the Lord God is planting a garden in Edom. This, of course, is Eden. And you may be wondering, why is this an M here? Well, for whatever reason, this is how typically the Old Greek renders this word, with an M instead of a nu, although some scribes will do it with the nu. And that just is a good little indication of some of the idiosyncrasies that take place when you're trying to bring a Hebrew word like Eden into Greek. But where did he plant it? Kata anatolas. Now, anatolas here is anatole. That's a feminine noun that typically means rising, like the rising of the sun. And when it's done in the plural, this as here is an accusative plural feminine. We know that because kata here is taking the accusative. When it's plural, it means the east. So kata anatolas is in the east or something along those lines. So it's he planted a garden in Edom in the east. Now, what did he do next? Kai etheta. Etheta, this is from tithemi, one of your familiar me or athematic verbs. This is a third singular aorist middle indicative. So God put or placed, and he placed there, eke, that is in the garden, the man. And Han here is now referring back to ton anthropon. Notice it matches in case. So whom, eplasin. We've seen this verb before. This is from plaso, and this is a third singular aorist active indicative. This means to form or to mold. It's dropped in S, so it's slightly irregular whenever it becomes aorist, but you do see the epsilon on the front end. It's a third singular. So it's whom God formed. Now let's drill in on this paradesos issue. If you look up this word in standard lexicons, in particular those for the Septuagint, and this is Moriaka, which you looked at previously, you will see that it is a plantation for cultivating fruits, or it's a luxuriant garden, that kind of stuff. And that is true. That's what the word means in ancient sort of levels of Greek. However, 3 times in the New Testament, it's clearly being used for heaven. So Luke 23:43, today you'll be with me in to paradiso. Paul here referring to himself going up to the third heaven. He was caught up to ton paradison. And then Revelation 2:7, eat from the tree of life in the paradiso to theou. Essentially what has happened in Second Temple Judaism, largely due to the influence of some other languages, the word for garden, as it is in Genesis 2:8, paradesos, starts to kind of shift in semantic range to incorporate heaven. And this would be sort of a Judeo-Christian kind of way of thinking that heaven is really God's garden, if you will. Or we'll translate it most of the time with paradise. You might not have realized that, though. That is the word that is used for the Garden of Eden. So an interesting little lexical shift that has taken place between the time of the translation of the Septuagint and the use of paradesos for heaven in the New Testament.